Hi, and
Hello,
welcome to
everybody.
Soul Sisters 125. We hope you're all well at this time. Okay, let us begin with our Rima for today. We're in Psalms 127, 1 to 5.
Unless the Lord builds the house, those who build it labor in vain. Unless the Lord watches over the city, the watchman stays awake in vain. It is in vain that you rise up early and go late to rest, eating the bread of anxious toil, for he gives to his beloved sheep. So,
Yeah, the explanation
the
is
explanation is men are ambitious to found a family and to continue a family name, but no found a fam but to found a family and to leave God out of the picture is to labor futilely.
that's right.
Wow.
Maybe that's what we've done.
Gosh.
Gotta come back.
Lo, sons are a heritage from the Lord, the fruit of the womb a reward. Like arrows in the hand of a warrior are the sons of one's youth. Happy is the man who has his quiver full of them. He shall not be put to shame when he speaks with his enemies in the gate.
You can do that one too. 127, 3.
Children are the gift of God and should be trained as such. They are a source of great joy to their parents and are their strength and defense.
Amen. So if you can have a posterity, then that's be fruitful, multiply, and fill the earth. So yeah, very good. Okay, thus saith the Lord.
Amen.
Amen.
We understand it as the 3-generation kingship.
Yes.
That's why we wear our crowns.
Yes.
To remember that.
Okay, so I'd like to continue with an interview. I don't have time to read Divine Principle. It's an interview with David Nino Rodriguez and Cliff High. He is very knowledgeable, Cliff High. He's a military man of 17 years. So let's get into it. David, and that brings me to my next question, because Wano7 had a question for you. Before this is all over, will we have something like the Cuban Missile Crisis? He is saying some kind of event is going to happen. We have the Zero Hedge article saying something like the Cuban Missile Crisis is happening in the Ukraine. Where do we believe the crisis will actually occur, relating to who is actually in charge of the U.S. nuclear operations? So something like the Cuban Missile Crisis has to transpire to where we see who is really in charge of nuclear capabilities. And he is saying there is a conflict in Taiwan, Mideast, and Ukraine. What does your data show, he asks. Cliff, so if I had to pick a location, which is dodgy as hell, I would say in that corner of the planet where the joining of Kashmir with India, China, and Tibet, Nepal, that region, the Hindu Kush area, that's where I think we're most likely to spark. In order of occurrence, it would be there, and then Taiwan, and then someplace north of China. China will be central to it. I suspect we'll get some kind of skirmish between the People's Liberation of China and the Indian troops on their side of the border. And that will escalate to the point where these two nations are ready to go at it with each other. How real that will be, I don't know. But I suspect there more than the more obvious places. No one was looking at Cuba when the Cuban Missile Crisis occurred. So in that sense, we are not looking to where it will arise. And David asked a question. So we can be pretty confident that 2022 as a conflict is going to arise? Cliff, we are already in a conflict. David, I mean, it's going to be hypertension, like Taiwan. I say China is going to make a move on Taiwan. Cliff answers this way. Sure, they probably would like that to some extent. But if you start thinking about what's their motivation and so on, you get one set of conclusions that are not in line with the broad brush. So we say China wants to take over Taiwan. They keep threatening and so on. We say, well, why the hell haven't they done it? With dozens of opportunities in the last 20 years. They could have done it a lot easier then. And it's because they don't want to do it. It's a problem for them. It's the same kind of problem they faced with Hong Kong. Only they were obligated to deal with Hong Kong at that time because it was the expiration of the contract between the British government and the Chinese government in 1999 that turned Hong Kong back to them. And Hong Kong has been nothing but a pain in the ass, is what he says, to China ever since. They used to have a nice cooperative relationship with Hong Kong, laundering all their money for China. Now that China is in charge of Hong Kong, they've got all the riots, the freedom stuff, all of their money thing went to hell. They've got a new population that's caused them more problems than the other populations they are trying to suppress. So do they want to take on another population like Taiwan? This time with guns and bullets and stuff? No, I think personally it's a lot of bluster. I think it is good for the Chinese to have Taiwan there, such as the CCP can always stand up and rally the troops. We're going to go and take back Taiwan. Then they plan and plan and plan, and it never happens. Makes sense, right?
My goodness, yeah.
David, they run military exercises. Why would they even be doing that? For intimidation purposes? Cliff, well, so lots of reasons. Okay, there's never just one reason. Intimidation purposes to send a message to us, to people in Africa. We are strong. China can dominate and all these things because the Belt and Road Initiative in Africa is going all to hell. And so there's many different agendas going on, but none of them should necessarily lead to an invasion. The People's Liberation Army has not been tested on modern times. We lost 50,000 plus Americans in Vietnam. And then we had the Gulf War test. And so we've got troops that are reasonably battle hardened. China does not. They have riot police, and that's basically it. So the PLA is not working out like the CCP wants. The CCP does not control the People's Liberation Army. They nominally tell them what to do, just like the Biden administration tells our military what to do. The PLA fighting the Indian troops initially got pushed over a cliff. A lot of them died. Then when the Indian troops came back, they just cleaned the floor with the PLA. Did you hear this at all in the media? No.
No, I don't think so.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And so it has gotten so bad for the Chinese, they can't trust their own soldiers to patrol in Tibet. They had to put in machine gun loaded drones and put them in control of people way the hell back somewhere. So this is a sign of the weakness of China, because those kinds of strategies mean you can't control, you don't trust your own people. And all of those things are essentially weak technology. He's talking about a good grenade with a sufficient electrical capacitor around it could take out dozens of those drones in a little mini EMP. So there's all different kinds of ways to disable such things. The Chinese know it, but it means that they're forced to do it. Look at it this way. The Chinese army is so strong, and the CCP is so much in control of them. And they've got an army with 200 million men, 2/3 of our population in their army. And they've got to put robots and drones in little tiny Tibet. So they're not as strong as they would have you believe, right? They know Sun Tzu. They practice deception. And so they want to win without fighting. That's the same way that our globalists want to do it. They want to win without fighting, with intimidation, forcing us to take shots, stuff you don't want to take, but they have no legal authority to do it. And if you simply stand up and say no, they can't do anything to you. And you will win if you get into a court case with them. But they're trying to do it just by bluster, by saying we're all powerful. David, propaganda. They run all the propaganda, so that's another tool they're using. Hollywood, Cliff. That's their only tool if you actually look at it. They only have that. The globalists. CCP has weapons, but... So here's what's happening. Going to Juan O'Savin's point. I don't think of us being in devolution the way that Patel does. He thinks of it like a protocol. And I think like the military is going to do this and then they're going to do that. I know that having been in the military for 17 years, it is true that no plan survived first contact with the enemy. So I think we're in, it's going to sound really goofy, he says, the same playbook as George Soros. George Soros ran and paid for all those color revolutions all over the planet, destroying everything, turning these countries into S-holes, to Ukraine, and all this kind of stuff. He's trying to do it to Russia, and that's why Russia is pissed off. That's why they are putting their troops on the border with Ukraine. But what I think is going on is our self-organizing and self-collective people in the U.S. are using the same kind of playbook, the same sorts of mechanisms, because they work. They're social engineering mechanisms. Soros has perfected them, and we're doing a color revolution. We are doing a tricolor revolution. Okay, so we're going to take the red, white, and blue to have a revolution, which is beautiful. David, you're not talking about where we have to have civil unrest. Cliff, no, we don't have to be that stupid. They are going to do that because we're doing it against them. That's their only way. So we're dealing with people that are essentially sociopaths and psychopaths. They're sort of like bullies. They're not very smart. They have a few tricks. They're clever and manipulative, But when it comes to fighting, they don't know how to fight. So they only have these manipulative, sneaky, underhanded kind of tricks. And so if you're aware of them, their tricks, and you don't fall for them in a fight, they essentially are only limited. They always lose because they are so limited. That's what we're dealing with. There has been a lot of them, and they have been able to squirrel their way into power, and they're manipulating our system against us. But as people wake up, they get to the point where they say, okay, I understand we've got a corrupted legal system, so I'll take different tracks and trying to get my goal in there, that legal system. One thing being, the legal system is captured, but you can still overwhelm their system, use their system against them, because it's basically our system. So if thousands, not even thousands, he says, hundreds of people in any given state all decided to do pro lawsuits for their self, no attorneys, and it draws so much more resources your way, you wouldn't believe it. But if you were to take legal suits and you had 100 people all filing on the same subject against the same people, not a class action, just 100 individual ones, you're going to attract attorneys who will create class actions. But you're just going to drown the legal system of that county and ultimately that state. It will collapse, but they won't allow it to collapse. So they will accede to your wishes, even though it is a corrupted court and that judge is corrupt. You'll be told to do the stand-up thing, just as the fact that tried to totally shut down the Ghislaine Maxwell thing, but they ended up with a guilty verdict because they had to assuage the people's knowledge that she was indeed guilty. They've got to get that out there, and then they've been trying to cover it up ever since like mad. So this is the kind of thing we've been dealing with, people that are bullies. Okay, but the problem is at this moment that most people on the planet don't know that we're at war. And it's not just the US, it's Australia, New Zealand are captured. France, England, Canada. You just keep naming the countries. So this is part of what he was talking about. I thought that was the most reasonable and very interesting take on things. Yeah. What do you think about?
Because it's like smoke and mirrors. Yeah. Let's do this. And then let's go over here and let's do this. And let's go over this way. And to confound the people and to thinking, the regular people like us, right? Mm-hmm. That are just looking or just receive the news. We don't know really what to think. We have no idea what's going on.
Yeah. And also they're trying to point to Russia again as being the villain. No, they actually don't want a color revolution in their country. No. So, and they've been doing
They want their own sovereignty.
Yeah, they've been doing it to Ukraine also. How do you say that? Kazakhstan?
Oh, yeah.
They've been, yeah, they did try to do it to them, but Russia went in there. Mm-hmm. So why? Mm-hmm. So this guy's saying that the good side is going to use their same tactics because they work without shedding blood.
Without shedding blood.
So what they're going to try to do, I think, with the Patriots is get Patriots who are sick and tired of waiting to be able to keep inside their rage, because if we make the first shot, it's going to be bad.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just say to you, look behind.
Be patient.
Be patient.
Keep our faith.
Pray. Resist. Mm-hmm. We have to resist. All of it. We have to resist, because otherwise they can control us. So
and keep talking.
Keep talking.
To people.
You know, I like Cliff High. You can. There's so many things out there. You don't like this guy? You can go to someone else. But I think he's very reasonable. He knows what he's talking about. Mm-hmm. So anyway.
Many people getting on their platforms and talking, which is really good.
That's what he's saying is happening, and we're organizing. Yeah. So
all right.
Hang in there, keep in the fight, hold the line.